With my Read Aloud series from Indian Economic Development textbook for class 11. I'm continuing on with Unit 3, that is current challenges facing the Indian economy. Doing the last chapter in this unit, that is the 9th chapter, Environment and Sustainable Development. In the last class I read State of India's Environment. We'll continue on with this. So here we had talked about land in India suffers from varying degrees and types of degradation stemming mainly from unstable use and inappropriate management practices. So today we're going to do factors responsible for land degradation. So some of the factors responsible for land degradation are: 1. Loss of vegetation occurring due to deforestation. 2. Unsustainable fuel, wood and fodder extraction. 3. Shifting cultivation. 4. Encroachment into forest lands. 5. Forest fires and overgrazing. 6. Non-adoption of adequate soil conservation measures. 7. Improper crop rotation. 8. Indiscriminate use of agrochemicals such as fertilizers and pesticides. 9. Improper planning and management of irrigation systems. And 10. Extraction of groundwater in excess of the recharge capacity. 11. Open access resource. And 12. Poverty of the agriculture dependent people. India supports approximately 17% of the world's human and 20% of the livestock population on a mere 2.5% of the world's geographical area. The high density of population and livestock and competing uses of land for forestry, agriculture, pastures, human settlements and industries exert an enormous pressure on the country's finite land resources. The per capita forest land in the country is only 0.08 hectare against the requirement of 0.47 hectare to meet basic needs, resulting in an excess felling of about 15 million cubic meter forests over the permissible limit. Estimates of soil erosion show that soil is being eroded at a rate of 5.3 billion tons a year for the entire country, as a result of which the country loses 0.8 million tons of nitrogen, 1.8 million tons of phosphorus, and 26.3 million tons of potassium every year. According to the Government of India, the quantity of nutrients lost due to erosion each year ranges from 5.8 to 8.4 million tons. In India, air pollution is widespread in urban areas where vehicles are the major contributors and in a few other areas which have a high concentration of industries and thermal power plants. Vehicular emissions are of particular concern since these are ground level sources and thus have the maximum impact on the general population. The number of motor vehicles has increased from about 3 lakh in 1951 to 67 crores in 2003. In 2003, personal transport vehicles, two-wheeled vehicles and cars only constituted about 80% of the total number of registered vehicles, thus contributing significantly to total air pollution load. India is one of the 10 most industrialized nations of the world, but this status has brought with it unwanted and unanticipated consequences such as unplanned urbanization, pollution, and the risk of accident. The CPCB, that is Central Pollution Control Board, has identified 17 categories of industries, large and medium scale, and as significantly polluting. The above points highlight the challenges of India's environment. The various measures adopted by the Ministry of Environment and the Control and State Pollution Control Boards may not yield reward unless we consciously adopt a path of sustainable development. The concern for future generations alone can make development last forever. Development to enhance our current living styles without concern for posterity will deplete resources and degrade environment at a pace that is bound to result in both environmental and economic crisis. So let me read box 9.4, which reads Pollution Control Boards. In order to address two major environmental concerns in India, that is, water and air pollution, the government set up the Central Pollution Control Board, CPCB, in 1974. This was followed by states establishing their own state level boards to address all the environmental concerns. They investigate, collect, and disseminate information relating to water, air, and land pollution, lay down standards of sewage, trade, effluent, and emissions. These boards provide technical assistance to governments in promoting cleanliness of streams and wells by prevention, control, and abatement of water pollution, and improve the quality of air, and to prevent, control, or abate air pollution in the country. These boards also carry out and sponsor investigation and research relating to problems of water and air pollution, and for their prevention, control, and abatement. They also organize through mass media a comprehensive mass awareness program for the same. The PCBs, that is, the pollution control boards, prepare manuals, codes, and guidelines relating to treatment and disposal of sewage and trade effluents. They assess the air quality through regulation of industries. In fact, state boards, through their district level officials, periodically inspect every industry under their jurisdiction to assess the adequacy of treatment measures provided to treat the effluent and gaseous emissions. It also provides background air quality data needed for industrial setting and town planning. The pollution control boards collect, and disseminate technical and statistical data relating to water pollution. They monitor the quality of water in 125 rivers, including the tributaries, wells, lakes, creeks, ponds, tanks, drains, and canals. So they've given you an activity. Visit a nearby factory or irrigation department and collect the details of measures that they adopt to control water and air pollution. Second, you can go another activity. You might be seeing advertisements in newspapers, radio, and television, or billboards in your locality on awareness programs relating to water and air pollution. Collect a few news clippings, pamphlets, and other information and discuss them in the classroom. So I'm going to read box 9.3, CHIPCO or EPICO. What's in a name? You may be aware of the CHIPCO movement, which aimed at protecting forests in the Himalayas. In Karnataka, a smaller movement took a different name, EPICO, which means to hug. On 8 September 1983, when the felling of trees was started in Salkani forest in Sirsi district, 160 men, women, and children hugged the trees and forced the woodcutters to leave. They kept vigil in the forest over the next 6 weeks. Only after the forest officials assured the volunteers that the trees will be cut scientifically and in accordance with the working plan of the district did they leave the trees. When commercial felling by contractors damaged a large number of natural forests, the idea of hugging the trees gave the people hope and confidence that they can protect the forest. On that particular incident, with the felling discontinued, the people saved 12,000 trees. Within months, this movement spread to many adjoining districts. Indiscriminate felling of trees for fuel wood and for industrial use has led to many environmental problems. 12 years after setting up a paper mill in Uttar Kannada area, bamboo has been wiped out from that area. Broad-leaved trees which protected the soil from the direct onslaught of rain have been removed, the soil washed away, and the bare laterite soil left behind. Now nothing grows but a weed, says a farmer. Farmers also complain that rivers and rivulets dry up quicker and the rainfall is becoming erratic. Diseases and insects earlier unknown are now attacking the crops. APICO volunteers want the contractors and forest officials to follow certain rules and restrictions. For instance, local people should be consulted when trees are marked for felling, and trees within 100 meters of a water source and a slope of 30 degrees or above should not be felled. Do you know that the government allocates forest lands to industries to use forest material as industrial raw material? Even if a paper mill employs 10,000 workers and a plywood factory employs 800 people, but if they deprive the daily needs of 1,000,000 people, is it acceptable? What do you think? The sources excerpts from the State of India's Environment 2, the Second Citizens Report 1984-85, Center for Science and Environment Studies 1996, New Delhi. This is a drawing or picture showing the people hugging trees, the APICO movement or the CHIPCO movement. Now this is box 9.2, ozone depletion. Of course you don't get any questions from the literature written in the box, but it's good to be aware of these. So it says ozone depletion. Ozone depletion refers to the phenomenon of reductions in the amount of ozone in the stratosphere. The problem of ozone depletion is caused by high levels of chronic and chlorine and bromine compounds in the stratosphere. The origins of these compounds are chlorofluorocarbons, CFC, used as cooling substances in air conditioners and refrigerators or as aerosol propellants, and bromofluorocarbons, halons, used in fire extinguishers. As a result of depletion of the ozone layer, more ultraviolet UV radiation comes to Earth and causes damage to living organisms. UV radiation seems responsible for skin cancer in humans. It also lowers production of phytoplankton and thus affects other aquatic organisms. It can also influence the growth of terrestrial plants. A reduction of approximately 5% of the ozone layer was detected from 1979 to 1990. Since the ozone layer prevents most harmful wavelengths of ultraviolet light from passing through the Earth's atmosphere, observed and projected decreases in ozone layers have generated worldwide concern. This led to the adoption of the Montreal Protocol banning the use of chlorofluorocarbon CFC compounds as well as other ozone depleting chemicals such as carbon tetrachloride, trichloroethene, also known as methyl chloroform, and bromine compounds known as halons. So the source is www.cu.hu. If you want to know more about that, please go to it and read. And now I'll read box number 9.1, global warming. Global warming is a gradual increase in the average temperature of the Earth's lower atmosphere as a result of the increase in greenhouse gases since the Industrial Revolution. Much of the recent observed and projected global warming is human-induced. It is caused by man-made increases in carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases to the burning of fossil fuels and deforestation. Adding carbon dioxide, methane, and other such gases that have the potential to absorb heat to the atmosphere with no other changes will make our planet's surface warmer. The atmosphere concentrations of carbon dioxide and CH4 have increased by 31% and 149% respectively above pre-industrial levels since the 1750s. During the past century, the atmosphere temperature has risen by 1.1 degree Fahrenheit, that is 0.6 degrees centigrade. Sea level has risen several inches. Some of the longest Longer term results of global warming are melting of polar ice with a resulting rise in sea level and coastal flooding, disruption of drinking water supplies dependent on snowmelts, extinction of species as ecological niches disappear, more frequent tropical storms, and increased incidence of tropical diseases. Among factors that may be contributing to global warming are the burning of coal and petroleum products, sources of carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, ozone, deforestation, which increases the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, methane gas released in animal waste, and increased cattle production, which contributes to deforestation, methane production, and use of fossil fuels. A UN conference on climate change held in Kyoto, Japan in 1997 resulted in an international agreement to fight global warming, which called for reductions in emissions of greenhouse gases by industrialized nations. The source is again www.wikipedia.org. The figure shows water bodies, small snow-fed Himalayan streams are the few fresh water sources that remain unpolluted. Look at that. In the next class, I'll read sustainable development.